We'll see what happens, but obviously afterwards we'll get the recordings and we'll push out for newsletters. Oh, and we're live on tax day on April 15th, live from the NJ Content Studio in beautiful Haddonfield, New Jersey. And I'm joined by Cybelle Jones, CEO of the Society of Experiential Graphic Designers. Hi, Cybelle.
Hi, Steven.
How are you?
Are we talking about taxes or are we talking about brand?
Let's talk about taxes real quick. What I want to do is I want to send them rubber checks so they can bounce it around like they bounce us all around all the time. You know, I want to like gag gift them. I just,
Or like, could I just write in the, where you have like the memo, what I want my money to go to, what I don't want it to go to.
That's interesting. It's almost like you could do a like a suggestion box style.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, that's a lot more productive than what I want to do, which is in 4-letter words and it's bold and whatever. But speaking of 4-letter words, what isn't a 4-letter word is the word brand. This is a 5-letter word. And branding is like 8, and that's even more. And I bring that up because it's time to expand the brand. It is time to think beyond the logos, beyond just the tagline, and think about in all the ways the brand shows up and the brand lives. And this is why we're talking with you, Cybelle. This is why we have you on the line. This is why we're going to talk about the SEGD Branded Environments event, because as Cybelle and I were just chit-chatting beforehand, it's for us traditional branders who think in taglines and logos. We need to understand how the brand lives in the wild. And for those that create brands in the wild, need to understand perhaps the strategy that goes into creating the tagline and the logo in the first place. And enter our two worlds colliding. So that all being
chocolate, Steven.
Peanut butter and chocolate. I love it. So Cybelle, tell everyone who has no idea who you are, SEGD, a little bit about yourself and SEGD, and then we'll go into just some questions and shit.
Absolutely. So SEGD is a nonprofit member organization like other orgs that you may know of, like AIGA or AIA. We have been around actually for 53 years, so we're not young. But we believe that experience design is really about connecting people to place. So when you talk about like a static brand, we're going to like zazzle that up and make it come to life in a physical environment. And that's what members of SEGD do. So we think about, our environments can be physical, digital, hybrid, but what we want to do is like, imagine how we're making people feel. That's what I'm always talking about. Is like, that's kind of the difference. If that brand comes to life and comes into your life, right? Yeah. What is the culture of that brand? How do I feel about that brand?
How important is it today in post-COVID, right? People are back and people are going back to the office and we're engaging and we're touching things now. And, we don't have to wear a mask all the time. Like, how important is that idea of feeling the brand in the wild?
I think it's number one. It's the motivation to spend money. It's the motivation to leave your house, because it's not necessarily COVID anymore, but we've gotten set in our ways. Like, it's nice to be home with the dog in our PJs.
How do you know what my mom will look like?
Close to the fridge, right? So, I mean, if I'm going to go to shop and retail, I can order anything from my computer. It's now because of the experience. It's not that I have more options, because I actually have less options when I physically go to retail space. And people know how to get around. They'll order 25 pairs of shoes because they can return the 24 that don't fit them. So that becomes the positive plus is why. And so if I'm a good designer or I'm a good retail brand, I realize that you've taken your time, you've fought the traffic, you've paid the whatever. I live in DC. Don't talk to me about how much parking costs, figured out how to park to walk my way into your store. And it's got to do more than just sell me a product. It has to be a destination on its own. And it has to tell me about your culture, what you believe in, what makes me feel good, makes me feel smart, makes me look better, makes me feel healthier, makes me want to bring my kids because I align with your values. And it becomes an experience that I do with others, right? And I don't do that. I'm not with my girlfriend or my daughter sitting next to my laptop saying, should I pick that or that? That's usually done.
People do Amazon privately because I don't think they want people to judge them based on what they're looking at on Amazon. Shout out to my wife. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I love her so much.
How many boxes showed up this morning?
Oh, Lord. You know, it's funny. When we were building out the studio, Cybelle, and as you can see, this is Studio A at the NJ Concept Studio.
Beautiful.
Thank you. We ordered so much shit that my business partner, John, and I were very much, we had a schedule of who was going to be at the office to accept packages, because we had everything from coffee machines to cameras to TVs to couches and everything show up. It was insanity. You were saying something, and it comes down to, like, as consumers, our expectations are higher now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like we have the expectation that brands are going to want to wow us to keep us in the store. Are you seeing that on your end?
Absolutely. But I don't think it's just about wow. I really think that, like my daughter's generations, they sniff out the BS. So, I mean, they might like to be wowed, but they're not just going to that restaurant or that retail or that experience or that place necessarily to be wowed. Yes, they would like it to be memorable, but I think it's even more than that. It's interesting because one of our speakers that's going to be at this event, David Schwartz from Hush, is actually coming full circle of that, right? He and I were having this conversation, and I posted something about design that gives pause, which is mostly like monuments and memorials. And he like shot right back to me, being the brand guy, and was like, well, can brands do that? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how we think about it. But, sometimes, as you were saying, Steven, like, how do you stand out in the crowd? Well, maybe it's not just a push. You can use digital to do different kinds of things. So, like, it's more about the why and the what than necessarily the wow. Because we got a lot of wow. We got a lot of competition in our lives for those like 2 seconds, whether it's on my Instagram ad or it's, I'm in Times Square or whatever. Yeah. And so sometimes when people give us the space and make us curious, that could draw us in even more. Like Float 4, I just posted this, but they're also speaking, and they just did a rebrand refresh of the super cool digital experience at Cosmo in Vegas. Okay. But rather than it like screaming, Cosmo is a brand, right? The Cosmo Casino and Hotel, they are like, have this character. And it's more of an idea of what is like my culture. So the theme is opulence, but in a way where it's more like Easter eggs. So this is what I love being a designer, right? And as a brand designer, right? It's nuances. It's thinking about a story narrative that I can see myself in, and you can see yourself, and maybe we're very different people. Like, I'm definitely not wearing a backwards baseball cap. You are. I'm definitely not putting a slice of pizza by my name. Not to call you out.
But that makes me though, and I love every bit of it.
It makes you you. So, like, how are we going to see ourselves in that story? Yeah. So I think brands are getting wiser to that we've got to be part of that narrative. It's not just like, I'm Coca-Cola, buy me.
Right. Right. There's too much competition out there. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it, and I spoke about this yesterday. I was teaching a class at Rowan University, and he talks about like brands.
I love Rowan.
You know Rowan?
Fossil Park.
Yeah.
Anyway, another.
Yeah, I'm an adjunct over there, and We were talking about this notion. Gary talks about this, that brands need to stop designing or stop creating content that's vanilla flavored, and we need to think more of like Baskin and Robbins, right? We are 31 flavors. We have, different, you could be a part of the same audience type, but the subjectivities of that person is so different. So I think it takes a really skilled designer to put themselves in the shoes of that end user and truly think through how they want that person to experience whatever it is that they're experiencing and what we want them to do, like what that conversion point is. I think it's a turning point we're having.
No, I think it's spot on.
You brought up the wow factor earlier, Cybelle, and I don't know if there's a bigger wow factor than where you're going to be in like 2 weeks. And we're talking about Sin City itself, the home of mega opulence and everything in between, Las Vegas. Tell us about the event.
Yeah. So the event is it's SEGD's annual event. We're doing wayfinding and placemaking the first day, which is Wednesday the 23rd, and then we're doing Thursday. April 24th. At Mandalay Bay. We are co-located with the International Sign Association, which is huge. But we'll be at Mandalay, and we're doing some really cool tours, like a behind the scenes of, things like Cosmo, some really cool experiences. There's a new art. It's called Art, ARTE. It's kind of like an immersive digital version of an art museum.
That's cool.
So we'll be there for like 2 days. And we'll be talking about, branded environments and kind of we're really looking towards the future. So like me as a CEO, but even more so as a former practitioner and someone who likes to push. That's why I think you and I get along so well, Steven, is that like experience design, I believe, is one of the most powerful tools that brands have. Because, it is that memory, it's the taste test, it's how did I feel about that. And so we're going to talk about everything from like workplace. So you're hearing a lot about transformation of workplace and people have to go back to work. And you're seeing a lot of really beautiful, innovative workspaces that are like, God, I want to go work for that company because it looks like a great place to be. But we're even going to challenge that conversation and get into the psychology of more how brands need to provide different kinds of spaces for different kinds of activities. This is where the science of branded experiences is getting really interesting. If you study people on different neurodivergent spectrums, or, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I need my flow time. I have a sense of humor. I got to laugh with my buds. Like,
right.
We're starting to design spaces that make that thing, that being enhanced. So
what a difference, because right before COVID, I remember this is so funny. I did a project with JLL, the big, real estate developer, or whatever. And the project was centered around open office design. And it was and this was, we're talking 2017, 2018, when everything was just a big space and, there was no division, there was no hierarchy of the place. And, everyone thought that this was, the university's gift to the working man was, the open office. But then coming out of COVID, we realized, wait a second, maybe the open office design isn't actually all that, maybe it doesn't enhance productivity. Maybe it isn't, what we thought it is. Is this what you guys are going to be getting into in the talk, a little bit of like this?
Absolutely. And the funny thing about open office, Steven, and see, it didn't bother you and I because we're both loud people. But that open office, when somebody's trying to have a difficult conversation with their client and Steven and Cybelle are yapping it away by the coffee clutching, and like it really pisses people off. And hoteling, they just bring in your stuff and you could move. we're creatures of habit. We want our space. You can
Yeah.
give us any space. I'm still going to sit in the same seat because I like the window and I want to, I'm going to be a squatter there. So, I mean, I think we're realizing like we went, I mean, I understand why we did it. Like, brands were like, we want to be, did I leave you, Steven? Can I still see you? I can't see you. But brands want to, I think I lost you for a second.
I'm back. I don't know.
Whatever. Sorry, dude. I pushed you off.
They didn't like this conversation.
I moved it was like a hand gesture. I was like, and off with him. Brands, thought that they were killing hierarchy, right? So the open office is like, oh, you're not more important than that person. They've been there, the old ways. They've been there 30 years. They get, the mega McMansion with the, with the restroom off of the, huge office space. And so part of it was to bring equality and more community and people to work collaboratively. And not that no longer matters, but I think we understand that different kinds of functions of space work better when they're designed for that function, and that all is not equal. And thank God we're realizing that people are different kinds of learners, people are different kinds of workers. Some people,
one size does not fit all.
Are you a morning person? You a nighttime person?
Oh, I am such a morning person. It is ridiculous. My wife's such a night person.
Right.
She's getting going at 7, 8 o'clock at night. I want to be in bed by 9 o'clock, but I also want to be up at like 5, There's no kids running around. There's no dog howling at the UPS truck.
So you would design your space, for how you function best. And that's what I think we're trying to do. And brands want to also invoke their culture and what they care about.
Yeah. One of the things that I find really awesome about this year's branded environments, and for everyone listening, I was trying to be there. It didn't work out this year, but hopefully next year I will. But you're going to have Area 15 there. And I know Area 15 from like back in the day. I'm so familiar with their work, as well as Jonathan from the Mob Museum, and me being an Italian American living outside of Philadelphia. Basically, I live in a mob museum.
Your life is a mob museum.
It's at times. What is it about these two organizations sitting on a panel that they're going to talk about creating an experience in the city of experience? Like, what is it about that conversation that you're hoping comes out?
Well, what I love is like if you go back to like the book Learning from Las Vegas, and how we learn from the city that does everything kind of over the top. I want people to think about like, what could I take from designing a casino if I'm not a casino designer? Well, take Jonathan Ullman. He was a museum director from actually, the Science Museum just outside of New York City, huge Liberty, right?
Yeah.
Sure. People take their kids, right? So he comes to Las Vegas and says, nobody's told the story of the mob. And it was really interesting because what he's created a museum. He's in a historic building, but in the mob museum, you can walk around with a beer. You can actually have how many museums don't you think like that would be better, right? I mean, I would like to go through MoMA with
everything be better if you could just walk around with an open beverage container.
Right. Yes. I mean, but that's like Vegas. And so in Vegas, they have a speakeasy down in the basement. Like they do things differently. And so I think we have a lot to learn about that because we love to put these big, boundaries around words like museum serious, museums 10 a.m. in the morning till 5 p.m. at night. I mean, no, they stay open late. And so, the Mom Museum is like people go to casinos and they go to a museum. Like how awesome is that? right? So we're breaking barriers about how we think about a certain type of experience. So Area 15 does it the other way. They're like, we're going to take what people would normally say is, oh, I got an extra day in Vegas, I'll go to a museum. I'm going to go to Area 15. I'm going to do like crazy stuff. I'm going to go to Meow Wolf. I'm going to go to like something between a theme park and maybe I had too much to drink and maybe, it's like a wild trip. It's a wild experience, but they have gotten that figured out that, and quite frankly, if you want to talk about brand, don't we all need more joy in our life? Don't we all need to not take ourselves so flippin' seriously? Don't we need just time to forget about the screen and just play and be joyful? So this is where I think like Area 15 and the Mom Museum, even though they're not the same kind, they really understand that there's something that people want and desire. And when a brand can tap into that, whether you're a museum as a brand or whether you are like, Mario Brothers or you are Universal Studios, or you're a casino.
We're tapping into desire. That's so smart of you to say. Where I just recently went here in Philadelphia was the Other World. Have you heard of Other World art exhibit?
No. I've heard of it, but I haven't been there.
It is the coolest thing. I took my son and we went in and it's giant warehouse of just like LED lights and all these different worlds and that they can go in. And it was this interesting. It was interesting to see. Okay, it wasn't a museum, but it was an exhibit as they positioned themselves. But as I walked in there, it was two audience groups: young kids, so that's where I fit in, and then contemporaries my age.
Your son.
Exactly. Contemporaries, like people my age who were going there basically to film content, to take their selfie, to get their new profile photo, to do all of that. And they were just there hanging out, and it became like this other place. And again, the antique way of talking about a museum is very stuffy and not fun and got to be quiet. But I think that, I don't know, I'm optimistically hopeful that, this next foray into experience design is going to just really captivate people and really get people to want to create memories. And there's another thing I'm thinking about. I'm going to completely go off the rails here. But as we look at next year, 2026, Cybelle, what do you think the role of the branded environment are going to be with the World Cup coming to the United States, like fan fests and activations in all these different cities? How important is that going to be, knowing that those tickets to those games are going to be so effing high that most people won't be able to enjoy?
This is actually, that was the start of our conversation of the sports and entertainment that we did last year in Vegas was all about the extended fan experience. And so you're going to see places, take the Sphere, but you're going to see a lot of, venues that are celebrating that are more accessible, that you can take your son to without having to fly, to Kansas City or wherever you're going to be going. And so this is where the extension of brand is also really becoming interesting. And don't you think, Steven, you're going to see a lot of pop-ups of brands that aren't necessarily soccer? It could be clothing, it could be makeup, it could be
well, that's exactly right.
Right? And they're all going to lean into that and create experiences, because the one thing we love about fandom is it's not about economic background. It's not about I went to this school, you went to that school. It's not I live here, you live there, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. It's just fandom is fandom. We love our teams. We love our heroes. We love whatever that is. And we can rally behind it and have a community experience. And this is another thing about like brands, when they bring people together, that becomes an expression, whether that's workplace, whether that's spectacle, whether it's substance. Like these are the things that these are all the topics we're talking about. And when you're a really great designer, you understand that. You're the curator, like the orchestra conductor, right? And so there's highs and lows, and everything can't be equal, because then it just is like it's
Becomes
just
too vanilla. Yeah.
meaning. Yeah, it's superficial.
I love how you brought up fandom. Like there is such in the brand world, in my side of the brand world, we talk about the curation of tribes and the curation of your people, and you don't need to have 1 million people following you. The notion of 1,000 true fans. It's a great book that was written maybe a dozen years ago. I forget who wrote it, but that notion of just like having the core set of people who believe in everything you do, and then it grows from there. But there are rules to fandom, right? Like think about Harley Davidson. If you are a Harley, if you're part of that community, rule number one, you got to own an effing Harley. That's rule number one. You got to buy in, but then you have to go to every Harley dealership and buy a t-shirt. You have to go to Sturgis. You have to do these things. And I don't know. I cannot help but
you
think
also have to represent. I mean, when you're riding around on your Harley, if you stop by to get an ice cream or wherever, you're
not getting ice cream.
You're representing your brand.
They are getting Miller High Life, and they are living the high life. That is that's real. That's true. And I think for some reason, as we think about this notion of like whether it's Area 15 or the Mob Museum, there's fandom there. There are, for whatever it's worth, like these subcultures that you could say.
Well, like you said, you're not a mobster, but like you want to go live that culture. You want to, my favorite movies, right? I mean, you just
go on. What's your favorite movie?
I love Casino.
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's a good one.
So
I think it's all those auxiliary tentacles of that reel us in. And the other thing too, I do want to talk about, I don't know how much time we have, but I do want to talk about users. I do want to talk about clients. So we have this really cool interactive session that we're doing, like kind of kicking off the day with Jama Radek, but we're going to talk about go back to the wow. Like, I think as a designer, clients expect that like they're going to hire us and we're going to solve all their problems.
Right.
But it's a co-journey. We are going through there. And Jill Ayers, who's one of our speakers, she was saying that there's those unexpected doors, right? So the client hires you and they say, we want you to do this, but you're going to find a door together that nobody knew. And it may not be that expected wow, that they're looking for, but it could be this really interesting juxtaposition that they needed to make to North Star their mission and how that manifests into the physical space. So like Gemma, I don't exactly know how she's doing this workshop, but she does a lot of like design improv at our SEGD things.
Oh yeah.
And she's going to start with this thing of like, instead of the best idea, let's start with the worst idea. Like, we are so afraid to fail. And I think that's where brands become inauthentic. They try to be their peer competitor brand, right? By one-upping them. I think and I hope you're seeing it in your world too, Steven, like, just get rid of it. Like been there, done that. Like
copycat need not apply.
Right. Exactly. So like, how do we as designers and facilitators and brand, people on the inside look for that journey, storytelling narrative that is true to them and nobody else can own it,
I love that. I love that you're bringing that up. We need to, as practitioners of our craft, not be afraid to ask the questions that are really highly provocative or that push or that are so safe so that we can understand the guardrails.
Right, what the guardrails are, yeah.
Right, but like you had said, like with Jill, finding those doors, finding the unique, finding the obscure, finding the common threads, the thing that like I'm picking up a pattern here, right? And the strategy hack comes out, like we have to explore that. Like, how are we not exploring it? From the business side, the client maybe also has seen that, but they don't have the permission to explore it because they have to deal with the day to day. They got to deal with struggling sales on their e-commerce side or whatever the hell it is. But we can explore those areas.
Right. And we get so bogged down by that. I mean, I do think post-pandemic, we have seen people pushing away from that. And I do think that risk and failure is critical to the process. I'm not saying to fail, but I think it's critical to be able to throw out 5 bad ideas to get to one good idea. So we're going to talk about that and kind of workshop that, so that I think that we're so risk adverse. And I see my kids like, you got to get straight A's. You didn't have a 4.0. God, Steven, when I was a kid, nobody got a 4.0. Now they get 5.0.
How do you get 5.0? How does that happen?
I know, you take advanced classes and their credits are more. So like if anything, I hope that this conversation also is going to be like, and that's why we picked Vegas, because Vegas, you can do anything.
Vegas was built on
people as designers will say, that's all spectacle. Yeah, but what can you take from the spectacle to learn about the kinds of work that you do?
Right. I mean, I don't know why we're on this mob thread, but if Vegas wasn't boldly ideated by the mob as a way to make money, like they took a chance. I mean, they took a design chance to build something in the middle of the effing desert that didn't exist, and to make it into this, mega, metropolis that it is now. Speaking of mega metropolis,
I'm just going to say, this is also part of why we're there, is because Vegas could have just been that. It could have always been about the mob. And then it tried to be family. That didn't work.
Right. Circus.
But now it's sports, and now it's art. I mean, they're building like one of the most phenomenal art museums,
Are they?
which I believe, I don't know if I heard that she passed today. Anyway, a lovely human who's like, there's a lot of philanthropy in Vegas. Like, the more I learn from Vegas, you'd be like shocked. So I think it's a great place to kind of look and explore all those wild edges. And, it doesn't mean that we emulate that in Philly or.
No, Vegas is so unique. It's a one of a kind.
Yeah.
It's a one of a kind thing. I'm going to throw it out there. Like, we got to get Nick Cage. Obviously, you got to get Nicolas Cage. But instead of leaving Las Vegas, we should do a whole documentary called Designing Las Vegas. And we talk about, because I mean, years ago, Cybelle, early in my career, I'm talking 2011, 2012, I was with an agency, and we were the agency of record for Mirage Hotel and Casino. And we were doing the rebranding for it. And that was my first kind of like push into casino marketing and the little design Easter eggs, as we were saying in the beginning, to get people to stay on the floor, right? To get them to continue to gambling. For every 1 minute they stayed on the casino floor, it equated to $100,000 in revenue, whatever bullshit kind of thing is like that. But like, it is such a human experiment of just excess. But someone has to design it, and we are now, and as you had pointed out, like,
but like, why does Martha Stewart have to be there? Why do the best chefs in the world have to be there? There's something about it that you want to be there, and you want to have done the Vegas experience. It's not everything, but you take something away,
So the Vegas experience for SEGD is happening at Mandalay Bay, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hotel. And you are doing this in conjunction with ISA, which is the International Sign Association. Shout out to ISA. But in the past, you used to do this with DSC, the Digital Signage Expo. This is a new move.
After COVID, everything moved around. You can't, like, everything's shifting. But we have been doing things in Vegas for a while, just because I think it is that kind of place where people can like leave the preconceived notions behind and use their imagination.
Yeah. Yeah. Open cannabis laws and and drinking on the strip helps to use your imagination, but the whole nother.
And Formula One, like, I
Hey, that's
mean, look
right.
at everything, you know?
F1 is there. They have a new
The
stadium
Sphere,
coming. So much
the new
cool.
stadium, which is also going to use retro. I got to do a shout out for my friend at the Neon Museum. They have a great event next
Yeah.
week after ours called Duck Duck Shed. I think they're going
Yeah.
to be talking about blowing up buildings, like not terrorists, like blowing up like the Mirage. Like, how do you take down an old casino? And
They're gonna drop the Mirage, right? They're going to tear it down.
it's done.
So sad. It is already.
Mm.
I not a. I mean,
Not because of your design.
no. We actually gave it a couple extra years. This would happen a lot sooner if it wasn't for us. Shout
Well,
out.
yeah, we're talking about Fontainebleau. I mean, yeah, it's really interesting, all the things like
I actually have not been to Las Vegas since before COVID, since a digital signage expo, SEGD event before COVID. It was probably the last time I was in Las Vegas. So we're looking at like 8 years now, maybe or so. It's been too long. I need to get back out there.
Forget about the 10th anniversary. Just come on out.
I
I didn't say that on live. No, sorry.
No, none of this is being recorded. So, Cybelle, last takeaway, and we had a couple questions that had come through. And Carolina says, how do you see the trends like immersive storytelling shaping the future of like branded environment design? Storytelling is such a ubiquitous brand word and buzzword, but how do you think, like, what are the emerging trends that you're going to think that we'll be seeing?
I mean, a lot of it is that visual storytelling that, when we rely too much on, I think we were saying, like, this very prescriptive understanding of what brand and who it's for, as soon as you do that, you alienate maybe me. You still like it, but maybe I don't, because it doesn't identify, as you said, like with my demographic group. I think as we get into more immersive storytelling, it leaves it more open-ended, it's more visual, and allows me to find my way into it in the way that I identify with the things that I like. So if you think about, an immersive storytelling has become a pretty generic thing of just like, you think, oh, it's just projections of screens.
Right.
But I think it's really the core is the story that you're telling and how the brand tells that story and how it manifests, and that manifestation becomes the substance. Right? The manifestation is the substance that then is my takeaway. But I do think the trends that we're seeing is making it more a choose your own adventure. Now that can be physical, but it can also be like, what is it that I take away from this brand that suits me? And not everything has to be equal. I don't have to love everything about a particular brand.
Well, what do you think in regards to, like, we live in such a personalized world, and AI is allowing us to inject personalization at the drop of a dime? Is that going to make its way into where you and I can walk into the same experience, same physical location, but your playlist is completely different than mine based on my history, my looks, my whatever?
Yeah. So we're already doing that through RFID and through things that track my preferences. I think the interesting, and certainly we thought that, in my design field, like, we thought that was amazing. It can deal with things like language and all different kinds of channels and ways in which I want to engage omni-channel.
Yeah.
But I do think it can become an echo chamber. And so that I think the nuance of the design is when it is personalized and when it's shared. And when it's shared, that becomes something that maybe isn't perfectly designed, but it's serendipity. And that's that moment that happens with you and your son, where you kind of both are like, oh, this is really great. Oh, he likes this about it, but I like something else. And then that becomes that memory creation, right?
And so when you say shared, it's not necessarily like shared on social, like not that kind of
No,
stuff. Shared as
experientially shared. It's a
in-
memory maker. And we have to remember that sometimes we actually enjoy the memories that we had, not because we took a selfie and we remember based on the selfie, but because we were actually present. I think when really good experiences, I know I use this quote all the time, but Maya Angelou says, people will forget what you said and what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. I think that's, we're doing these experiences correct. It's the how I felt about it more than the intellectual intuitive. Right?
It goes back to Marty Neumeier and his quote on branding, that it's the person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization, right? And when you extrapolate that, right, again, it's that feeling that you give off. So exciting. I look for it. So day 2 is branded environment. Let's just talk about day 1 real quick. We still have a pretty nice sized audience.
Yeah.
Day 1 is about wayfinding and placemaking.
Yeah. And we have, oh my God, we have we've got some amazing speakers that day too. So we're doing a deep dive into accessibility, but we're kind of doing it 2 different ways. So we have a group that's SEGD that have been working. Oh my God, they dedicate hours and hours every single week to helping review and form regulations. So we can totally geek out on signage and requirements for accessibility. And then we have someone, he's a professor, Tay, he's amazing. He's at Indiana University and he went blind. He had his retina came off, which I think is a really painful thing when he was a design student. And so he had to learn to be in design school and he wasn't able to see very well. And so he's created all these amazing tactile things. He does digital printing and ceramic printing. And so he's going to talk about kind of from a different way, not government standards, but how we in our practice can make things accessible and beautiful. This is the thing, sometimes when we have limitations, we're pushed to be more creative. So we're going to kind of look from that perspective. We have an amazing individual closing us out, Ruben from Land Design, who's I'll give away that he's starting his talk with a Swanson TV dinner. Do you even know what that is, Steven?
I know what a Swanson television dinner is. Yes.
Okay. No, but he's going to just kind of challenge how we think about culture and how we think about place and place for who.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about placemaking, placekeeping, but if you think about the role of design and you think about the role of community, and Philly is oh my God, Philly's a top place to talk about placemaking and community. But how do we as designers really bring the right people in and let their voice be co-curators? Can we do that as designers? We don't like to do it.
Yeah.
But the more we do it, the better we are when we, try to create space for all different kinds of users to talk about the kinds of spaces they want to create.
Habitate, right.
Habitate.
It's amazing, especially as we start to look at the restructuring of urban centers and urban cities. And, you're seeing here in Philly, you definitely see it in New York. You're seeing these places pop up, whether it's Hudson Yard or, all these new, areas where they are intentionally trying to make sure that it is a place that is adding to the community vibe and feel than something that is so not, right. And I think it's
right. This is the thing. It goes back to brand. It's interesting because HOK is going to talk actually about sports stadiums and the conversation that some communities, as Detroit and other communities, have gotten really upset when their taxpayer dollars are used on sport facilities. So then the sport facility, that stadium, has to say, when it's not game day, what am I giving back? Well, this is where us designers come in, because we're like, okay, we can make this space work for a festival. We can make this space work for women's soccer, even though it's a baseball stadium or a football.
1,000%.
How do we become, through design, allow more agility? So this is where, like, and the interesting talk that HOK is saying is, like, they were given the stadium not to renovate, but to just reapply. So not everybody has the budget to build a brand new stadium. So how do you, like, take design to really, like, enhance that brand, enhance that experience, increase adaptability, increase inclusivity? And that's why I'm so passionate about design, because
purpose, reuse. It's kind of a sustainability mantra. Like,
exactly.
It's got to be functional, but like multifunctional is really,
and 24/7, daytime, nighttime,
right?
fandom, not fandom. If I'm not a sports person, but I love to go because you do this folk festival or whatever every year that I love to go to. So, like, it becomes, if we design it in, that provides more flexibility for the end user and the person who's got to pay the electric bill.
Yeah, multiple streams of income. Like, now we're helping your P&L in a way. So the $100,000 you spent to have us think about your project, hopefully, was going to make you a 10x multiple or 20 or 30x multiple throughout the year, because we're leveraging the space for what it's used. You mentioned 24/7, and just to bring completely full circle, Las Vegas in a couple weeks, 24/7, on April 24th. And 23rd is the SEGD conference in Mandalay Bay. For those who are listening and now want to be like, hey, how do I get tickets? Are tickets still available? What do I do?
Yes, they are. Go to SEGD.org and go look for events, and you'll see it at the top.
Amazing.
And if you're just interested in learning about us, we have, like, amazing projects on our website and great resources. Yeah.
And if you're watching this and you're like, I want to get in touch with Cybelle, and you forget her last name, it is Jones, but you can always just contact me, and I'll get you in contact with whoever.
He will get you hooked up. Yes.
Whatever you
need.
Me
on LinkedIn. I'm Cybelle, CYBELLE at SEGD.org.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you taking time out.
I just want to scoop you up and bring you with me. Don't you want to come?
I do. Oh, I do.
Are you having FOMO? Are you having FOMO?
I am having FOMO. I especially because, like, there was a couple of marketing materials printed with my face on that I saw, and I'm definitely
just cross out your face and glue mine on. I'll use it.
But this is the start for everyone watching and listening. This is the start of our partnership between SEGD and Branders Magazine. We have a lot of cool shit that's going to be coming down the pike. And at the end of the day, I think, Cybelle, the one thing that you and I both share is just this innate, I feel responsibility to making sure that not only businesses understand the role of branding, but all the facets of branding, but just human beings just understand, like, how important design is, and, like, without it, how we would still be beating each other up with sticks as cave people.
Yeah. No, it enhances the human condition. Is the reason why I left being a practitioner to running SEGD, is because I just think that we need to elevate the impact of when something's designed beautifully, whether it's whimsical, whether it's serious, whether it's spectacle, like, you feel it and you want to be there and you want to spend time and you're inspired and you're a nicer person and you're not so grumpy. Like, good design changes the world.
I love the bold. Good design makes you a nicer person. I'm just going to go out and we're going to start saying it. That's
I think it's true.
Well, because good design just works. Bad design, I don't know about you, but, like, I have choice words for bad design, especially kids' toys and how badly designed they are and how frustrating shit is to put together and whatnot. Like, it just makes you scratch your head and be like, you should join SEGD. You can learn about good design.
Exactly.
All right. Well, with that all being said, again, Cybelle is at segd.org. You can find us at brandersmagazine.com, and I'm at stevenpicanza.com, and we're on all those fancy social networks. And if you're in the studio, my latest venture, njcontentstudio.com. And until next time, everyone, deuces. Peace out.
Mm.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.